really saying, hey, I'm not just doing a broad brushstroke in AI transformation, because I really think it is quite different for different industries and different sizes of companies. So my target is Series A to D, private equity, anywhere between 200 to 1,000 folks. And mainly I have CHROs or people bringing me in. And the main problem in people's minds is really, what are the use cases that we can use AI in HR, AI for HR and tooling. So it starts there. However, I think it's a good question. I'm not sure if it's the right question. For me, it's really around, what is the problem? What is AI solving? Because there is so much FOMO, there's so much hype. Business media is loving it because they just put headlines out and everyone just are like moths to a flame. And I think the real question is, what is our business strategy? Where are we going? And this AI transformation, if I had to summarize it in 2 words, it's an organizational design transformation. And I think most people confuse org charts and roles and layers and job descriptions with org design. That's not what org design is. Org design is a beautiful, sometimes complex system of understanding what is our business strategy, how does that link to processes, roles, incentives, and business systems. So it's literally, it's an org design game. To look at that was, I saw a beautiful diagram, if you like. It was by Andreessen Horowitz, which most people know is one of the biggest VCs in the world. And it was actually Wade Foster, who's the CEO of Zapier, who did a post on this. And he was maybe shocked or wowed by the research that most individual AI, the sum of the parts aren't leading to the whole, which shouldn't surprise a lot of us. So it had like red arrows going everywhere. And then the idea around institutional AI, a lot of the research is showing it's not there. So like everyone experimenting and doing these things and feeling more productive, actual impacts to an organization are a little bit, you know, finger in the air or self-reported. So I think if the CEO of probably one of the most progressive companies in the world around AI literacy is being really honest about that he doesn't want that to happen to his company, that we're not there yet. I think a lot of people honestly are fudging some of like their results or their vanity adoption metrics. And that's what I'm seeing with different people I'm working on. I look at their AI strategies and it's more of an adoption and use case play. So I think for people to actually see difference, I think at the start there's just a level of experimentation for people that might not go anywhere. This is a new technology. It's scaring the heck out of people because, yeah, they're seeing a lot of people being laid off. They're asking themselves good questions like, am I going to help automate myself out of a role? Am I going to help make the workflow so clear that I don't have a role anymore? These are all great questions. So first there's just a fear bubble, and then there's just a know-how bubble. And so I think people need that time and space. And then to the direct part of your question, like how teams are using this, I think it goes back to business strategy. And I wrote this the other day and it had varied responses, but quite popular, is I don't think people need an AI strategy. I think strategy is misunderstood. I think you need a business strategy. You need functional strategies. And then AI, my favorite model of business strategy is by Roger Martin. It's the cascade of choices. So, you know, how will we win? Where will we play? And I think most people confuse, and he has a great video on this. So everyone go look at YouTube, A Plan is Not a Strategy by Roger Martin. Most people confuse strategic planning or strategy with a plan and approach. A strategy should scare you a little bit because you're making a strategic bet of how you will win in the market. And you don't know if that's going to work. And the best, he does this in the video, one of the best use cases of really good strategy and taking a big bet that they didn't know would work was Southwest Airlines. Little operator being lean and mean and super friendly, and then is growing to one of America's biggest airlines. It's because they had a strategy and they backed it. They followed an approach. Whereas most people are just saying, hey, we need an AI strategy, we need a workforce strategy, where really when I look at the documentation, it's an approach and an execution plan. So for me, if you're really talking about how you're going to get difference in your team and your company, it's saying, what is our business strategy? How will AI impact that? How will that impact our technology? How will that impact our customer services? So AI might change your business strategy where you play in that strategic choice. And then further, if someone looks at the cascade of choices, then you have capabilities, management systems. That's where AI is, further down that business cascade or strategy. And then if you want to change your whole business strategy and product, that probably sits in the product strategy. And then for HR, what is our HR strategy now? That's going to be one of the biggest questions with AI. And it's probably going to shift where you play, who you hire, how you hire, workforce planning, learning and development. But I don't think that sits in a separate AI strategy. It sits in business and functional strategies. I think that's how we will get real shift, is instead of telling people quickly automate and do different things and get efficiencies, it's like, hey team, here's the North Star for the company. Hey function, here's our North Star. Here's how AI fits in. Because what I hear from a lot of CHROs is they're saying, well, employees are asking us questions like, okay, I've saved time and been more efficient. Do I get that time back? Or do I need to be more productive with that time? Why are we doing this? Am I going to lose my job? Without actually thinking at the top level strategically around the why for the business and why for the function, you also miss the most critical part of change management, which is change readiness and the communications that are authentic, because you haven't done the thinking. You've just told everyone, be more productive, or look at the gains. And, you know, that sentence, AI won't replace you, but someone using AI will replace you. I agree with it, but I'm sick of hearing it. I'm looking for more meaningful thinking from executives to lead an organization. And I think that's how you'll get results, because you know where you're going. And then you're going to say, hey, let's not waste time and tokens trying to automate this part. Our HR strategy and our business strategy is taking us in this direction. Let's go after this big fish and vibe code this app, automate this process. Otherwise, I think we're having kind of vanity feels of productivity and efficiency. Look at that. So I think I'm against productivity where everyone just says be more productive, and then it's a vanity feel of we saved X time around this, or, you know, we did X less calls, or, you know, like I don't know if that is actually going to move the dial. So it might have made you more efficient, but we all know that sometimes we go after small fish and it feels good and it's a nice metric on a case study, but that didn't lead to increased customer value, didn't decrease your customer churn, it didn't increase your revenue, didn't increase decreased employee turnover. So I was like, what are the core metrics for your business? And so practically when I got tasked, you know, with this, everyone double productivity, don't love it as a metric, but what I said to my people function is, okay, let's look at some of the different things that we do and say what productivity looks like for us. So if you're going to use that term, specify it and make it really clear. So my approach to HR people is building people as a product, like you build people solutions like you would a piece of software. So then we looked at what might be more productive. So for me, it's actually productive, speed to value. So if one of my team members has run an experiment and it fails, that's productivity, as long as like they failed in a shorter amount of time, because maybe they'd used AI to do transcribe their discovery and distill the hypothesis quicker. That's productive. So I think you've got to go through each of your areas. Maybe in recruitment, you're looking at different parts of the screening process being, quicker, or maybe the time from a work assessment to comms back to a candidate being faster. I'm a bit provocative. I don't love time to hire and time to fill as metrics. I use them as secondary metrics, not as primary. I really love the work of Jessica Swan and looking at ECAC to LTV, so employee cost of acquisition to lifetime value, like you do it for a product. So I used to tell my recruiters, I don't care if you put a bum in a seat more quickly. If that person leaves within less than 3 years, that cost of acquisition has outweighed the value to the company. So I think that's why I'm really careful when I look at recruitment and AI. It's like, what are you actually trying to achieve? And the biggest one for recruitment, is it compliant? So long answer is, I think every function, if you're going to say, let's be more productive, has to be really clear before they start what they're trying to measure, and then see if they have productivity gains. And for me, the key is speed to value, not speed to delivery, because I think speed to delivery is incentivizing the wrong outcomes, whereas speed to value, whether that's for customer, whether that's a failed experiment, can be really clearly defined. You need to know the tech. Once again, I just like, you just need to know how to lead, like, and then just pull in the right people to do the technical stuff. So yeah, I agree. I think I said this to someone else. I think this is one of the first times that HR could actually ask for what they're worth from a salary band perspective, because it's always the poor cousin to finance and sales. It's kind of like you're pretty much leading a whole workforce transformation and org design. So that's why I'm so keen to get HR leaders pushing and getting their boards and executive teams to think strategically, because we keep saying, oh, HR needs to be a strategic partner, but I think a lot of people's strategy skills are missing because they've come in a very traditional HR discipline. I think now's the time, like, if you needed a use case, this is the one. Yeah.
I completely agree.
You need to know.